the last 6 weeks of prep, you're not going to get any bigger. You're probably not going to get any smaller. You're only going to get more injured or more fatigued. And it's really a question of, can you make it across the finish line without limping across, basically?
Yeah, I think deja vu with that, because that whole am I doing enough? And that's the whole thing with contest prep is brutally hard, so it's easy to get lost in the woods and think that that's what contest prep is. How hard can you work? How much can you suffer? It's not true. It just so happens that suffering, what's required, I think we said landing the airplane last time. What's required to land the airplane is very sufferingable, but it doesn't. But it's a component of it. It's not, the suffering isn't the sport. Landing the airplane is the sport. And then the AIs should have backed off latent prep. It's like I'm having deja vu of just hearing that, because I feel like every podcast I've ever done has had, or every discussion I've ever had with a client has that, and it's so hard, because the mindset you have to have in prep is such that it's incredibly difficult to kind of switch that at the very end of prep, when everything else is getting harder. Calories are getting lower, cardio is getting harder, everything else feels more difficult. But now I'm supposed to change that thought process with training with weights only. Everything else still remains more difficult. It continues to be more and more suffering. But it's very difficult.
I think I've kind of adopted this mindset, like a productive mindset, more so this prep though, because most of the year just even the idea of taking it like a deload or an easy week is just like anathema to me. I hate it. And most of the time I have the energy and zeal for training that I don't really need it that often. But at the end of prep, there does come a point where even I will be like, okay, I could use a break from training this damn hard if I have to do this much cardio and eat this little and feel this shitty all the time. And if anything, it just kind of mentally rejuvenates me, so that I know, a month from now or whenever I'm going to get back into off season, I'm really going to be ready to hit it hard. Because
I think you just kind of touched on why it's so difficult though, because in the off season you won't take those deloads because you have the energy. And so your brain is thinking that, I need this deload in prep, but your brain is also saying, does that mean I'm not going to win? Am I not working hard enough now? And it's so hard. That's why you need a logical brain somewhere in the equation to kind of walk you through off the ledge on those things.
Yeah. But on that note, as far as okay.
I think that that's one of the biggest assets we've been able to give each other during prep and prepping at the same time, is kind of being in the throes of it and knowing, and understanding right in that moment where your brain is at. So when you come in and you have that tweak and you're like, God, my legs are going to look small. I'm going to look flat on stage and my quads are going to wither away. I think you kind of joked about the other day, as your training partner, I understand where your mindset is at with that. And I think that's where it's really, really important, where you mentioned having someone who's got a logical brain with you, Justin. I think that's probably the most important training tool anyone can have, is a training partner who understands where you're at 100%.
Yeah. Danny's pulled me back from doing stupid things a couple of times, but I think
that's what wives do.
Yeah, exactly. We're okay at that.
But I mean, we're talking about the different mindsets at play here, and I think the mindset towards training maybe needs to change a little bit during those last 6 weeks as well, because I think a performance-oriented mindset and obsession with progressive overload will take you very far most of the year. And I think that I attribute that to my progress as far as the training is concerned. But, those last 5, 6, 8 weeks, whatever, all that really matters is that you preserve the look that you're going to have on stage, because that is the end goal. And so, Danny had to remind me a few times, okay, no, your quads aren't going to wither because you're not loading them like crazy in the lengthened position like you do in a hack squat. You can preserve your quads with these other 3 exercises that you can still smash just fine.
So you're still training with weights, you're still eating, you're still on supplements, and it's only a few weeks. It's difficult. I mean, Dorian Yates, admits he could have extended his career, and he basically artificially shortened his career by not accepting that. And it's just very difficult, because what does everyone say when they won a show, or when they lost the show? When they won, they say, I left everything on everything in the gym. I did everything I could. And so it's hard not to associate everything you could with training as heavy and hard as you can. Everything you could really means everything you could do to land the plane properly, which in this case means backing off the training. But it doesn't feel that way when everything else continues to get harder throughout prep.
This video is brought to you by First Attachment Nutrition. Battle-tested nutrition, expert formulated supplements. Join the First Attachment revolution.